Welcome. I'm Cheryl Bridgman.
And I'm Allie White.
And we're here to support you and your work in reading with your students. A comprehensive literacy program has 10 components. All are essential and should be embedded into your short-term and long-term planning. Our work for this PD Day is to look closely at reading best practices for supporting students in junior high.
Within the main component of reading, grades 7 to 9 focus primarily on comprehension. Do students understand, really deeply understand what they are reading? Of course, we need to expose students to a variety of reading types and genres, as well as instruct the various comprehension strategies needed to fully understand text at a junior high level.
You'll notice this slide is in the vocabulary word study session. We need to think about all 6 of these paying particular importance to number 5. It is essential that we find ways to assess students' reading skills by listening to them read and asking them questions orally, as well as having answer questions on a test. Your observations and results help to tell you what reading strategies to teach and reteach.
There are many components of reading. All components are important, and they all play a very big role in literacy instruction in our classrooms. We need to make sure that we use assessment to drive our instruction, and when we plan to instruct, regardless of what program that we choose to use, we need to be very intentional and specific as to what our targets are.
For your reference, here are the different types of reading to do with your students.
Research says we cannot underestimate the value of modeling out loud for our students, especially when modeling our understanding of what we are doing is reading. Also, research tells us that the way in which we do that has a very strong impact. If you're familiar with Hattie's research on effect size, transferring strategies to different contexts, class discussions, and instructing specific targeted strategies will impact your students greatly.
So here we are in the AIM assessment. We want to assess reading skills of all students, whole group, small group, and individual.
We want to make sure we identify what the strongest areas of weakness are for a classroom or specific students.
And then we want to go to mini lessons. Once we've identified what's missing, where the gaps are, we want to create lessons that support the areas of weakness of your students. And again, that can be in whole group or small group.
And we always want to make sure that we are reassessing and reflecting and repeating good practice to keep checking on the skills of the students in our classroom.
So the A in AIM, we want you considering formal and informal assessments. A formal assessment, such as a running record, can give you a mountain of information of how your students read and understand text. Regardless of what program you choose to use as your text for a running record, the most important aspect of assessment is that you are digging beyond the assessment and looking deeper into the reading behaviors within the assessment.
This slide speaks to some of the resources available for you for assessing reading. There are rubrics created specifically from the Alberta curriculum, as well as reading behavior checklists provided to help you dig deeper into a student's surface reading. There are also observation sheets and comprehension questions to ask in fiction or nonfiction text to decipher a student's understanding on text, any text. On the right-hand side of this slide, we've created 2 videos. One is of a student reading text at a junior high level, and the other with the student answering questions pertaining to his understanding of the text.
Please spend time looking at these decoding and comprehension rubrics as they are specific to Alberta's ELA curriculum and will help you identify strengths and areas of weakness in the reading of your students.
After assessing your students' reading skills and behaviors, look at your class results and identify what reading areas are you noticing many students are showing weakness in.
We strongly recommend you explore how to administer a one-on-one running record if this is not part of your regular practice. On this slide, you can find links to help support you administer and score a running record. There are links to the comprehension part of the running record to help you analyze what reading comprehension behaviors and skills are weak within your students and require instruction.
Think alouds. Research tells us that they really work with junior high students. Whether you annotate your thinking and writing on the margins or text, or you're just thinking out loud, that explicit modeling helps students to see how fluent readers make sense and gather deeper meaning from what they are reading.
After assessing and identifying the key areas of weakness, the fun part starts. M in AIM stands for mini lessons. You plan for students to target the areas of weakness with their reading strategies.
The acronym TARGETS stands for the 7 main comprehension strategies that improve reading comprehension. Decide how you will plan to teach these key main reading strategies. Will you spend a few weeks on each strategy? What order would you teach them in?
We've linked a variety of resources that research tell us are effective in teaching reading comprehension by strategy. Also linked on this slide are links to learn how to improve fluency, as well as how to use affixes and Greek and Latin roots to sound out and determine meanings of unfamiliar words.
It's important to reassess, reflect, and repeat assessments, instruction, and mini lessons. The frequency and the topic of the needs will depend on your classroom observations and or your formal and informal assessments. Think about how often you would do this and what your intention and your purpose would be.
Think about how you set up the structure of your classroom so you're able to deliver mini lessons and have the flexibility to group students into small groups should these groups be working on the same targeted area of concern.
Again, with Hattie's research, it tells us that direct instruction in small groups have an effect size of 0.59. So that is definitely an effective way to teach specific content with your students.
We included this slide to show you the breakdown of a grade 9 PAD exam. Students need repeated exposure and teacher explicit instruction around these key reading behaviors found within the PAD exam.
How are you going to plan short-term and long-term to teach and spiral, which means continually touching base on, the key reading comprehension strategies?
So now, here's your job. For the rest of the time together today, we want you to follow steps 1 to 4 on this Your Mission slide. Alice and I will be popping into the G-Meets that you'll be popping into yourself. And with our remaining time, we will be able to answer any questions you might have and see how we can support you. When you finish your mission, we'd ask you to please fill out the survey on the last slide of the Google presentation.
Okay, so off you go. Thank you.